Growing up in the Philippines, I learned early that nothing is handed to you. When I got to the Bronx, cooking became the path for me. I chased stars for years. But I realized my real work was helping young chefs looking for a better life. Now, everything I do is about giving back.
I'm here with Chef Harold Villarosa.
What's up, brother? Good to see you.
Coming on the show.
Yes, sir.
You're from the Philippines.
Yep.
Grew up in the Bronx.
Yep.
You worked your way up from fast food, correct, to Noma, Per Se, some of the best kitchens in the world. Can you tell me what it's like working in that environment?
I mean, working in those environments, again, it really just is really about, it's all about intention, really. You know, I think most people, when they get into those kitchens, they really just want to work there for the name and for the stripes and kind of put it on their resume. And I was that type of person in the first 2 hours. Okay. And then I realized I'm not going to survive in this space if I don't switch my mindset and drink the Kool-Aid and really have purpose and intention to work in this space, you know. So, like when I got the stage in Noma, I wanted to go in there with the open book, just like...
How old were you when
I was 25 years old, and it was 2011.
Okay.
And it was during a time when, Noma was, just got the best new restaurant, got the cookbook just came out. So they were all on the up and up, right? And all the young chefs that were there were some of the best chefs now in the world, like Matt Orlando was the CDC, Tom Halpin was there. Ali, Oliver Stevens was there, all these like big name chefs, they were all young cooks at that time. And I realized I couldn't walk around thinking that Noma was this like fairy tale land and we were all there just, foraging and eating insects and doing all these things, you know what I mean? So I really dug in deep. Like the second hour I was there and realized, oh shit, we're fucking getting ready for service. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like we gotta get ready for service. Yeah. So I started really just turning it up and focused on like how can I be an asset instead of a liability, right? Okay. And
what did a day look like there?
Well,
this is the old Noma, right?
This is the old Noma.
Back in
2011. This is where it was, the address was 93 Starting God. This was by the water, and this is by the old building, right? And it just really depends on what your station or where you work at. And for me, I started out at Section 1, and then went to prep, and then went back to snacks, and then went back to prep after that. I really enjoyed those times because prep was really great, where we received all the products from the farmers, and then we produced family meal, which was very important at Noma. They took a very hard stance on family meal.
What did a family meal look like at a restaurant like that versus your average kitchen?
Well, I mean, there was one time somebody ordered a whole lamb. And,
for family meal?
Yeah, for family meal.
Oh my God.
And we butterfly, we Jesus Christ it, and had it on the spit for like 4 hours, and people just kept basting it and watching it and, and like, stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? Or the Italians will come and make pasta by hand, or there was like different groups of people that worked at the restaurant, So yeah, a day at a place like that would look like you come in at 6 a.m., you clock in, and then, usually, Chef Rene would be there before everybody. and he would be, making porridge or making us breakfast or any of that sort. And then, you get right into your sections, and you would have to, if you're in the prep team, you would have to like prep certain things. And most of the time I was there, I was in charge of the juices,
Okay.
which was part of the juice tasting menu for the non-alcoholic.
Yeah.
So, that's like juicing like these like organic products, like massive juicer, and just like, having like elderflower and all these kind of like syrups and kind of like flours to sweeten or create new flavors for the juices, and then we would just go into like butchering fish to making family meal, and then there was a labor intensive project one time. I remember the chicken skin project where we would get pounds and pounds of chicken skin, and we would have to scrape the fat off of it and then dehydrate and then fry it. And it was just like a garnish for one of these dishes, and it would be a whole table of us. We would put down all this like plastic wrap, and it would just be hundreds of pounds of chicken skin.
All that attention to detail just for one garnish.
Yeah,
one
just
dish.
for one garnish. Yeah.
Wow.
And make all the oils, so many different types of oils. You get 50 kilos of like dill, and we have to like pick all the leaves off of it, blanch it, and make oils out of it, and stuff like that. Like it was a lot of work, and you would stay through service. You would work until like the first turn, since we've been there since 6 a.m., what I'm saying? And so we work until like the first turn, and then we do that every day for 5 days, and we would get Monday and I think it was Monday and Tuesday off then. Monday and Tuesdays off. And you would just be, cramped up, and you didn't want to move from your house. But the crazy part is like after every Saturday, we would do, Saturday night projects where, people are working on these side projects, and they would present dishes to the chef, and people would, say it was great or not. And then after that, we would get drinks. Then after that, we would go and do karaoke and like just smash the town, So, and then people would just, not even like show their faces the next 2 days, just sleep.
Yeah.
So, those moments was pretty awesome in that space. And, some of those people that I went to work with are still some of my, best, good friends till now. So, yeah.
Yeah. And what is the stress like in an environment like that?
I mean, stress level is super high. You not only, at Noma, we were all working for free. The stagiaires were super bought into the restaurant.
Yeah.
We were all wanting the restaurant to be better than what it was. And we all killed ourselves to make sure it was. And the only thing that we wanted was a pat on the back from Chef Rene and say, go do your thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The one thing I really took advantage of while I was there was on my last day.
How long was this? Was 3 months?
3 months, yeah.
3 months,
On my last day, I had a chance to have a conversation with Chef Rene on the side. I asked him for a couple of minutes, and we went to the boat. That's where the fermentation lab used to be at. And he was there with his kids, and, we sat down and spoke and talked, and she asked me, what I wanted to do in my career. And I told him about all these, like, highfalutin things, like, I want to get a Michelin star, all this stuff. And, he told me straight to my face, like, look, you're not that type of chef. You shouldn't be aiming for some of those things that, I know for sure you don't have a passion for, And he said, to really focus on my community and give to them what I learned at Noma, in a sense of the structure of the restaurant, the way the culture was, the way they treated people, stuff like that. Full circle moment, 2015 or 2023, the last time I was in Noma. But from 2011 to 2023, I would always go to Copenhagen because I was the U.S. Culinary Ambassador to Denmark.
Okay.
So that was my job for 5 years.
Okay.
So I would always go back to Copenhagen, always visit Chef Rene, always pay homage. But one time, one of my partners asked him in 2023, about that situation. From what I remember, those were the words that he told me. But when we asked him that in 2023, he said that I've always spoken that type of language. He said he didn't say much to me. He said I told him that I wanted to give back to my community and all these things. But in my head, I thought he told me that. And throughout those years, that fueled me to be a community activist.
So he was talking about himself, but you thought he was talking to you about...
No. I said it to him. He didn't tell me anything about being a community activist. I thought it was him telling me to do it, to do the work. But he said, I told him I wanted to do that when we sat down and talked. And he said those words always came out of my mouth because he knew that I always wanted to be a community person.
Okay.
So in 2023, when my friend asked him that, he said, no, I never told you that. You thought I told you that, but you said it in our conversation, and I just told you to go and follow it.
Yeah.
Because he said you were more passionate about that than looking for a star.
Yeah.
And so to say this, your mind can play games on you.
Yeah.
So that's almost 15 years of me doing community work. All interviews, everything I've done, I've always talked about that conversation with Rene Redzepi, him telling me to do that. So I pursued it. And on the back end, it was really me explaining that love of community work and service to him, and him just acknowledging it. And then in my head, it became this thing where it helped me to achieve my dreams by somebody like Rene Redzepi telling me that. And I used that to push me to do my job, which was crazy, right? Your mind playing crazy games on you, but he was such an inspiration to me. Till this day, when my son was born, he sent me a gift for when he was born. And yeah, it was great, man. So we have a great relationship. And I think that's the one thing that I really wanted to get out of that whole stage, 15, 16 years ago. And those kitchens were super intense, obviously, super crazy, hard work, everybody going nuts and all that stuff. But those moments are the ones you hold on to. Those moments are the ones that carry you through some of the hardest times in your life, some of the hardest times in the kitchen, some of the hardest times during service. Those moments will keep you going and really kind of gives you the understanding, kind of viewpoint of what this restaurant business is really about.
Yeah. So so after leaving Noma, where do you go from there?
So after I left Noma, I came home to New York, and I thought I was the shit, I want to be a fucking chef de cuisine somewhere. And everybody just said, no, motherfucker, you're going to be a line cook like everybody else. And so I ended up opening a restaurant called Batard with Marcus Glocker. Okay. And Marcus Glocker was one of these chefs that really was anointed as the next one in New York. He worked for Gordon Ramsay, Charlie Trotter. His resume is crazy. So we did Austrian food in Batard at the old Montrachet Corton space. And we got 3 stars, New York Times, and a Michelin star. And it was a great experience. That was, I think, a lot more pressure than the Noma stage because, Chef Glocker ran it like old school brigade where you worked a station and you had no help, no commis, nothing. You were by yourself. And so at a
So where'd you start there?
Ultramet. Okay. I work Ultramet. Yeah. And so a station that's supposed to have 2, 3 people in it, you just let you rock with one. Wow. And so we're talking about a tasting menu, the whole nine, and you have to not only blanch, puree, sauces fresh every day, you also have to make pasta, risotto from scratch. So stocks from scratch. So you're really learning how to really maximize time in your station. and you know, I was fucking running around with my head cut off, bro. I remember one time I was using the slicer downstairs. I left it on, and the wire that was hooked onto the slicer kind of slithered into between the slicer and cut the motherfucking cord and shot the power all over the goddamn building.
Oh my God.
And I'm just there and downstairs like, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
So I go upstairs and everybody's freaking out. The fucking sous vide machine is off. The fucking, everything's off. And so everybody's freaking out. And then Marcus Glocker just looks at me and said, that was you, wasn't it? I was like, yeah. So it was a terrible moment. But, you know, we got it working.
Yeah, those are the things you remember.
Yeah.
So, and then after that, where'd you go from there?
I wanted to put more pressure on myself, and I went and I worked at Per Se.
Yeah.
I was a masochist for the pain.
Yeah.
So I went to go get 3 more stars in Per Se, and you know, Per Se has always been a place. For me, was the epitome of a perfect restaurant.
Yeah.
Thomas Keller, the whole 9.
Yeah.
And, you know, before, back in the day, they used to print out all the menus every day, and I used to steal all of them. And I used to just put them in my book bag and just like read them, like, fuck, what is all these dishes? We'll draw on them, stuff like that. And one day they had a space, and then I put my name in, and I came and staged, and I killed the stage, and you know, Chef Ile was the chef then, Chef Eli Kamaya.
Yeah.
And he said, you want a job? I said, yeah. And then I started working as a commis. I did pasta and I did the fucking cornets.
Yep.
And
I know those. I've read his French Laundry cookbook, and I've looked through that recipe a million times.
The cookbook doesn't give
I'm sure it doesn't do the justice.
No, it doesn't give you the pressure of doing 400 pieces.
Oh, no, I know. It's easy to look at it and read, this is how you make it, but that's different when you're actually doing it for the restaurant, in the restaurant.
You do 3 of them, you do 4, that's great. About 400.
It's a lot different.
It's a lot different, you know? And so...
I'm sure, yeah.
So I would, you know, my day would start like this, tell it crazy. It would be like 4:30. Matter of fact, 3:30, I'd get up, take the train.
In the morning?
In the morning.
Oh my God.
3:30 in the morning, take the train, go down to...
Where were you living at the time?
In Washington Heights.
Okay.
So it was like a 30-minute train ride to Columbus Circle. And then I would go into the job, not clock in, grab a big container, butter, flour, all the shit I need for the fucking cornets. And I would grab all the black pepper mills and everything, all the seafolds, because as a commis, you're supposed to fill everybody's shit up.
Yeah.
Oils, peppercorn, you know, all that. Lids, corn containers, pints, everything, right? Tape. Everybody has to have tape, boom, boom, boom. So I would do all that in the morning, and I would make the fucking cornets. The best part about not only that morning is being able to turn on the lights at a 3 Michelin star restaurant.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever had that feeling.
I have not. I've been in the kitchen of one, but I've never turned on the lights. And also, I was 14 years old doing not even a stage, just hanging out.
Yeah, they let you do that back in the day.
Yeah?
Yeah, so they turn on the lights, you know, a 3 Michelin star restaurant is amazing. You see that beautiful oven, you know, in the middle of the restaurant, and you use it for making cornets. And so I would do 2 hours of just making fucking cornets.
Every day?
Every day I would do that. And, you know, I would be there with the butchers. I'll be there with the bakers, you know, everybody that comes in early. So we got to really know each other, you know. And I remember one time I made, you know, it's 2 services, right? The lunchtime and the dinner time.
Every day?
Every day. So so we make 400 cornets, 200 in the morning, 200 in the night.
Oh my God.
And one time, I mean it, I thought I was the man one day. I made 450 cornets. I thought they were beautiful, you know. You know, it's hard to make cornets, you know, it's like you do the paste, and then you bake it halfway, then you put the sesame seeds, and then you pull them out, and then you roll it in these like metal cones. Yeah. And then you stack them, and then you throw them in the oven. Yeah. And then you
bake them all the way through.
Right?
So they are.
So you pop them out, right? So I thought I was the man. I was like popping them out, everything looking beautiful, stack them, boom, whatever. This French chef, sous chef guy, excuse me, He worked at Alan Ducasse for 4 years. He worked at Joe Buchon for 4 years.
What was his name?
Gregory something, I forgot.
Yeah.
But he's a fucking asshole. And obviously he's French, so nobody understood what the fuck he was saying.
Yeah.
And so he would come up to me and go, who made the cornets today? I was like, because I did them shits. So he pulled the container out. He's like, yo, you made these cornets? I was like, yeah. He took half of them and crushed it right in front of me. He said, this is shit. And threw it on the floor. And then everybody in the kitchen was like, and I said, oh, this is some bullshit. And then in my head, I'm like, I hope I have at least 100 that he didn't crush. Because right now, I got to get to fucking work. So what ended up happening was...
Why were they shit?
He said when you put the creme fraiche in the middle, they're so thin that some of the creme fraiche comes out on the side. I was like, really? So you wanted them to be super thick and da-da-da-da. And I'm just like, wow, schematics, you know?
Yeah.
But that's not what it was, right? It was fucking, you had to be on point.
Yeah.
And so while I was making pasta, I had to make fucking cornets in the middle service. And it was...
Holy shit.
Man, you don't even understand, bro. That was intense. I almost took a knife and fucking killed myself in front of everybody and just sacrificed my soul, you know? But yeah, it just, it worked out, whatever. And then that was a life lesson, never to really rush it, you know? I should never rushed it.
Yeah. So you mentioned when you got to Per Se at some point, you look back on what you had done and what you were going for, your inspiration, your drive to own a restaurant or be a top chef in a top restaurant. And you told me that things changed. What changed?
Well, when I first got out of Per Se, I got my first sous chef job, and I thought I was the shit, right? Wearing the blue apron, I was fucking all this stuff. And I was doing the things they were doing to me, to other people. Cursing people out, being angry, being super aggressive. And I thought that's the way you were being, that's how you was to be a leader, right? That's how you're supposed to
just
lead.
Get the best out of some way, somehow.
Right.
Believe that's to get the best out of people.
Push them, And I thought that was the way. And, I had 8 people walk out on me. I had people walk out during service. I had people quit. I had people, it was just all these things that kept happening. And I was like, oh, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't really do anything but, create a very fear-induced kitchen.
Yeah.
And so I decided that I had to make a change in myself and in the way I communicated, and to get the best out of people really was to be in the mix with them. Instead of telling them what to do, show them what to do. And then that's when it really turned around for me. And it became so much easier to communicate with them because we already had that rapport together, And I think the one thing also I really learned and then really try to emulate through those kitchens too also is the culture part is most important. You have to build boundaries and you have to build the culture to make sure that everybody feels safe to come to work and it feels safe to work in this boundaries that you made in the restaurant. And so, yeah, man, and I think that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm in this moment of zen and kind of there's a chef named Jonathan Waxman, that cooks so elegantly, but cooks so slow, everything is done with so much care and so much, intention that his food is, you can really taste the love into it, So I really decided to kind of put myself in that same mindset where all these things are more than than what I think, and I try to, emulate that sense where calm and using the people around you to get what you need is much more important, and utilizing them and kind of delegating the work. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you've spoken about trauma that chefs in your generation carry. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think what we're really talking about is, the way that we were kind of brought up and taught how to work in kitchens, wasn't the right way, like all the screaming, all the physical violence, all of the hazing, all of the cutthroatness, and kind of like, there's also this kind of ceiling that was put on us, in regards to like race, and then the school that you went to, and all these type of things were like kind of like a conduit for all of it, and I think the problem really stems from some ego situations with some chefs. You know what I'm saying? They want to create this space where it's fear mongering, right? And you only listen to them type shit. I remember one time a chef would walk through the line, and everybody would like part ways and like let him walk through type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like it's very interesting to talk about it now, because looking back, it was the way of life, right? And we thought that was the way it's supposed to be. And at the end of the day, now in our older years, now that we've become head chefs ourselves and try to get the best out of people and using those same techniques, it does not work. And I think we're learning that now the hard way, instead of somebody mentoring us and telling us like this is not the way it's supposed to be. You know what I mean?
So when you look at Anthony Bourdain, for example, I think a lot of people either have read his book, know his story. From a young age, starting in restaurants, he was hooked on drugs, alcohol, and treated horribly, terrified of Bigfoot. I remember is what he called one of the chefs he worked for, and he loved that chaos. And I think a lot of people, whether it's in that environment or different workplaces where there is serious chaos and drugs involved, some people thrive in it and love it, but obviously you can see with what happened with him, and when he took his life, that's not sustainable forever, and that leads to a lot of trauma and a lot of mental torture. Is what he was experiencing, very like synonymous within the entire industry, and why do you believe it is that way?
I think it's because back then in the 90s and the 80s, glorifying like rock stars was part of the I guess
if you look at like the Motley Crue and those guys,
it was like part
that was the lifestyle.
That was the lifestyle. It was like part of the whole thing, and like people loved chefs back then because they were like this like bunch of pirates and like people that didn't give a fuck, long hair, tattoos, shit like that. So people really adorn that, and I think with Anthony Bourdain and his situation, I think the drug part really kind of came back and bit him in the ass. Can't front. He was a fucking addict. Whether it was addict for finding the best food in the buttfuck corner of Vietnam, or him being having sit down with President Obama. Like those are all addictions, right? And I think the worst part got him, and then just bit him in the ass.
You were in Austin for a little while at this project, and then you came out here to help the next generation and help build restaurants and rising stars.
Correct. Yeah. So the idea of the Peach, kind of the next iteration of any restaurant that I do open down the line, is I wanted to create a space for young immigrants to feel like it's a safe place for them to learn and how to make money, and how to really be the brother's keeper in a sense, because the restaurant business, the cooking part, is a craft. Like you can't learn any of these things unless you're in it. You're in the middle of the hustle and bustle. You're not gonna learn any of it from a cookbook, And I think all you have to really understand is that as you work hard, and as long as you have the tools to be successful, you can really do anything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These boys, and ladies, I try to tell them, look, when you come here, there's only two rules: show us up on time, and then work best between the lines. You know what I'm saying? At the Peach, I want them to really, get speaking English. Kind of one of the steps that I want them to take.
Yeah.
Instead of paying money to go to school, they can learn English here. You know what I'm saying?
So you were in Austin, and then the Peach brought you out here. What is next for you?
I think what's next for me is seeing what retirement looks like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm only 40, but I think 10 more years, I think I'm out the game.
Yeah.
And so I've always had this dream of like sitting at a cafe that I built, drinking mimosas, or no, not mimosas, drinking like a latte or double espresso. And, I'm fat, so I can't close my jacket, Got all these rings, and then all I do is cook fish, by the water. And if we don't have enough fish, we run out, simple dishes with fish, lemon capers, butter sauce, like simple grilled chicken, really simple type food. And I really just want to kind of ride out in peace, you know. And I would love my son to not go down this route because it's a fucking heavy route.
Yeah.
But if he does, I'm there for him to be supported.
Yeah.
That's it. Just want to be by the water, cooking fish. Getting fish, like catching fish, and then just being able to travel a lot more. I would like to see other countries, but my home is where I want to be. Yeah, for sure.
So, last few questions. What is the greatest lesson your mom or dad ever taught you?
I mean, the greatest lesson my mom and dad ever taught me was that just never be afraid to be on your own.
Yeah. What is the greatest advice a chef's ever given you?
One of the greatest advice.
And who was that chef?
Buy yourself a passport.
Yeah.
Yeah, get yourself a passport.
And what is the best piece of advice you'd have for a rising chef in this next generation?
Buy yourself a passport.
Good answer. Love it.
And go out there and travel. Learn from other people. Learn how to fall in love with cooking. Don't worry about the money. That will come after. Just worry about finding your passion, finding something you love. And then once you fall into it, spend some formative years into it, get yourself locked in. And then once you get to my age, you can start thinking about what you want to do next, second career, or even, retirement.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When people hear the name Harold Villarosa 10 years from now, what do you want them to think or remember?
Yeah, I think when they hear my name, I want them to remember that, I was a stand-up guy, and that I stood by my principles, and I helped a lot of people, come up out of nothing and to make something out of themselves.
Amazing.
We'll see you next year.
Yeah.
See you next Filipino Heritage Month.
Sorry.
All right, brother. Thanks for coming out.